or do we have to do
I just I just can't get to Google. I can do pretty much everything else. So, all right, here we go.
that?
Another awesome day, another awesome MVP office hours. Welcome everyone to the April 19th episode. It is so great to see all of you. Um, I'm Squire Kirshner. I'm joined by two of my favorite people in the world. Dale, say hi.
Hi.
And Joy, say hi.
I can't hardly
I'm
say
also
hi.
joined
Hi.
by 18 and hopefully growing other of my favorite people, but I'm not going to call you out by name. Um, as always, MVP office hours is the first and third Friday of every month. Barring some Salesforce events, we've talked in the past that July is going to be a little bit kooky, but with holidays, etc. If you want to contact us, feel free to use LinkedIn. We all have LinkedIn profiles. If you want to ask questions, feel free to put them in Twitter or in LinkedIn, but most importantly, put them into the success community for our group. Best way to get responses right away, a lot more collaboration, and just the right way to do it. So, having said that, sorry, too many pop-ups here. Why don't we go on to the next one? Next meeting is going to be the first Friday of May, the 3rd. In the meantime, if you want to subscribe and register, the bit.ly's there on the left, bit.ly/MVP office hours. Our call is friendly and informal and helpful, but we want to remind everyone that we need you to share, but we also need you to post, and we need to ask questions and need you to post links. It's all about collaborating together. We are recording. You saw it pop up, which means if you can't be recorded, we have to ask you to drop. And if you are going to share a screen to help verbalize your question, feel free to do that. But we're recording and the internet's forever. Please don't share production. Don't share anything that shouldn't be saved for the world. And last and most importantly, let's keep it fun, but keep it professional and positive. We all have rough days. We don't want that recorded either. So having said that, why don't we jump over to the events? We're in a little bit of a lull. We've seen some of the same events showing up, but Dream LA, Albania, Bid Atlantic, and Czech Dreaming are all coming up in the next month and a half. I myself am probably not leaving the US, so some of those don't apply to me, but there should be some good content there. There's a lot of speaker requests out there for things like, well, just doesn't even matter. Just your local events. Check out the event sites, reach out to your local MVPs and get on those lists and present. Joy, I can tell you want to say something.
Yeah. So Midwest Dreamin' is closed. I think Buckeye Dreamin' is closed. That was 3/31, so they're closed. Whoops.
Wit closes today.
Oh man, get
What
on
did-
that, friends. It's your last chance for witness success. Florida Dreamin' is still open, and I don't think Dreamforce had their call for speakers. Can anyone confirm or deny that?
I've seen it.
Mile High Dreamin', I believe, is open. Or it was last week.
It is till the end of the month.
Okay, so you still have a couple opportunities this year, and then Nonprofit Dreamin', I haven't seen anything about yet this year.
We're not, as far as I know, it's not happening this year.
Oh, no call for speakers or no conference. Okay, we'll talk about
No
it later, Kathy.
conference.
Darned it. Northeast Dreamin' has also not opened up yet. Or wait, maybe it has.
No.
It'll open late summer, but the link's out. So there's lots of opportunities, at least like 4, 5, 6, maybe 6. All right, go on. Sorry. Thanks, Squire.
That's okay. No, I appreciate it. And I think maybe it's a really good opportunity to just remind everyone on this call and for everyone on this call to remind everyone that they know that you don't have to be Elon Musk to speak at one of these things. Everybody's experience is valuable. Every level of experience is valuable. Every topic is valuable. If you want an opportunity to just share what you know with some people who can't wait to learn from you, start small. 15-minute theater session can be a great opportunity to now become someone like Joy, who's at every session and every meeting. So.
And some days it helps if you're not Elon Musk when you're speaking.
Yeah, fair enough.
For sure.
And then just a quick call out: the Salesforce schedule continues to add more items. A couple world tours, Tableau and education summits, and the connections events are coming up in the next couple months. Check out the event site on the success committee to see everything that is out there. Exactly, Katie. Every topic is valuable. In fact, I think more than anybody, you know that it doesn't even have to be a Salesforce presentation to be valuable and and important to the people who are in the room. I've appreciated some of those sessions that you've done that you didn't even use the word Salesforce in the conversation. So great call out. All right, so let's jump over to the questions. We had 2 come in on the success community. Actually 1 success, 1 through X. If you've got questions that you want to add to the list, please raise your hand or put your question in the chat and we'll get to you as soon as we can. Why don't we kick off with Todd's questions from the success community. There's a system outside of Salesforce that creates PDF files, and I've been asked if there's a way to use the PDF file to create a file in Salesforce and associate with the proper custom objects. Did Todd join us yet?
I
It's
am here.
on. Excellent.
Awesome. Speak to that a little bit more. Let's hear what you have to say.
So we have an estimating system on the commercial side of the house. So they take all the specs for a book and decide what the price will be, and basically bring back a bid, and that gets put into a PDF file to send to the customer. They would also like that to take that PDF and create a file in Salesforce and then associate it with the quote request record custom object. But every example I found so far is a screen flow or something where there's human interaction, and they're wanting to automate this. Either somehow they push it into Salesforce or they queue it up somewhere where I can do something to go grab it. But I can't find any examples or any information on how to do that, if it's even possible.
Really quick question to maybe help direct it. Does it have to be the PDF or just the data?
They would like it in the PDF.
And why is
'Cause-
that?
Because of the information that's in it, it's not easy to take it and push it back into data fields unless it was just a big old huge text field, because it's variable. It's not a set data. These bids change for every single one they push out, basically.
Appreciate that. Cool.
And within that bid, they may have anywhere from 1 to a dozen different options: page counts, hardcover, soft cover, gilding, no gilding. So it's just kind of all over the board.
And then one capacity issue, any chance they go outside of the size constraints that Salesforce will accept as a file?
I don't believe so, no.
Do the files, like the files that are coming in, what's the max size you think they'll be? Like 10 megabytes or less, like a normal PDF, like an
Yes,
emailable PDF?
correct, because that's what they typically do, is they email them to the customer. And right now we're
So why don't you
relying
ingest
on,
them by email?
ooh,
Make an email service and then use the email service to ingest the PDF, and then you can go and do whatever you want with it. And like in the email, you could put the subject to be like some identifier of what it should be. And then you just accept only emails from whatever, like the automated systems, you could just ingest them by email. That would save you trying to build like a whole API crazy stuff. Then you're just on the Salesforce side. But outside of that, you can go do it with an API. You just have to go build out a bunch of stuff if you want to do an integration. Like you can pull and push email or PDFs out of Salesforce easy. You just have to build a lot of code if you want to try and do that.
yeah, and I'm not a heavy coder. I can do enough to generate a PDF in Salesforce, and that's it right now. So you're saying ingest it as an email. So as an attachment on an email that they would send to somewhere in Salesforce?
There's an App Exchange app that it's like paid, but it's not a lot. I actually use it.
Do you happen to know the name?
Yeah, I'm grabbing the link right now. It's called Email to Flow.
Okay,
Wouldn't that also require, though, that the source system has emailing capabilities to generate and send that email automatically? Because you're trying to keep human hands off this altogether, right?
correct. And I believe it does, because part of that system, the sales rep can specify whether they want that quote request sent to the customer or to them. And I'm assuming right now that can be done automatically by that product.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
How
the
would
guy
the
who
file
made,
know what record to connect itself to without some user interaction?
if you throw like, I mean, so I have it set up. I can explain what I do in my org and using Email to Flow. You know, those annoying, not annoying, but like the MFA verification, the 6-digit email like code that it'll email you to verify when you log in. so for consulting stuff that I do, I have all the customer orgs will send it by an email to my org, and I'll grab the org ID that's in that email, and I'll tie it to know where to put it back to. So you just have to put an identifier in the subject or in the body that you can parse out with like contains. Looking at like the body contains this ID. So you could have a record ID, or if there's something has to be in the email that can say you can use.
Okay.
Yeah,
Measure
and
the
I
flow.
think that's kind of what I'm getting at is, but what in the email knows unless someone cuts and pastes something from Salesforce into the email body or to
The external
system, like,
system's got to have some ID that you've also had in Salesforce to be
Does
able
it?
to connect.
Right.
Does it?
You'd have to have some type of ID identifier that's unique that you can use to
Right.
find it, whether it's
I
a
guess what I'm-
name.
I hear you, Andrew, but I'm saying, like you're saying, it's got to have. No, it doesn't. Like it's got to have something in order for you to map it, but that doesn't mean either system knows about the other system. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, they're gonna know about each other because there's a quote name, a
Okay.
QR dash, and the auto number.
Oh,
Is the
okay, perfect. So
name-
you have a foreign key that's in the secondary system that can follow
Correct.
its way back to the quote. So okay, so Adam's right on. Andrew's right on track.
Yep.
So
So they've either have that or they can pick up the record ID when that information's sent to them. They'll probably use the name, that QR dash and a number. And those are
Does
all
the
unique.
file have to be in Salesforce, or can it be a link to the system of origin?
Don't know if they'll give us access to link to it. And I don't know how long they keep those.
Okay.
That is an interesting thing to think about though, because essentially you're creating a redundant file.
Correct.
And it may not matter to Salesforce, it may not matter to source system, but in your total economy of storage, that's 2. And then what about syncing if one gets updated, whatever. But
So at that point, if it was a link, I could just have a URL or something in a field to go out to it and they could click on it and open it from the source.
Correct. And that's provided that the origin is publishing to some repository in which the people in Salesforce would have access.
Gotcha.
Or if there's a link that's in whatever external system, you could even still use like email the flow, have it send an email to Salesforce that has the URL for that specific record. You could grab that URL and store it in maybe a custom object related list of like that you could use to link it, or you could put it in a field. You could do a lot of stuff. So you could still grab like dynamic URLs.
Gotcha.
But provided if it is a URL, I would probably recommend something a little bit more structured than an email. So it just depends on how you construct your messaging and there's a lot of options.
Right. Right. I'm
And
hearing
so
more and more of
understanding
them.
a little bit more about your systems, the system constraints, your, skill set constraints, et cetera, et cetera. Cause like I work at a lot of enterprise clients. So I'm thinking obviously the most robust version, most secure version, most et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then you're like, I don't need all that. So
Right.
understanding a little bit more to dial things down, maybe I won't be so imaginative. If that makes any sense.
I understand. I appreciate all the suggestions. I'll go back to that other team and see what they can give us.
Yeah, because even if we go back to the file, speaking about the duplication, right? Then you got to think about if these files could ever get into like an e-discovery situation, right? And then how can you put things in a litigation hold and protect the chain of custody,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So having that traceability is critically important, and understanding data retention and access models is also something else to consider. And once you have all of that, I think we can give you a little bit more specifics, I think,
Okay.
before we go this tangential octopus and turn into some crazy, what is it, Lovecraft beast.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, I appreciate all of the suggestions. And
I-
I'll go
one
back
quick
and see what I
follow-up.
can learn. Yes.
Won't EAC help you with this? Aren't you an EAC user?
Yes, we are.
Doesn't this help you?
That's not going to store email or PDFs for us, though.
Well, I thought I brought the attachments in. Okay, I wasn't sure.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, fair enough.
We're lucky to get the emails right now.
We're recording. We're recording.
3 cases later.
Oh
Okay.
boy.
I
th-
see.
I
One
guess I'm
final
done
thought
now.
is so the PDF itself, you're storing it on the quote because you sent it by email. I'm sure there's probably someone who thinks that's important, even and not the data, but what about something like just Files Connect and just having visibility to the directory to be able to find it when you want it? Because if you've got the file saved with a quote ID, it'd be easy enough to find it through Files Connect or, a SharePoint Connect type interaction and not have to actually store them in Salesforce. Just give them the ability to find them without leaving Salesforce.
Yeah, I'd have to find out where they're stored exactly. I don't know
Okay.
if they're in a file system like that or if they're stored in iQuote.
Cool.
So I'll take what you have shared today and I'll go run with it and let you know what we do.
Appreciate
Thank you,
that.
everyone.
All right. And did Melissa join us? I wasn't paying attention.
No,
again.
I don't think she's going to be able to. She has a standing meeting at the same time. And I was like, well, we can talk about it, but there's going to be a lot of questions.
We have a Melissa, but not the Melissa we're talking about. So,
But it's a different Melissa. It's not the
Yes.
Melissa who sent us over this this crazy thing.
so did you interact with her? I didn't get a chance to see the
For
X.
for a hot minute, Melissa Lindenberger said, is there a way to block users from checking and unchecking boxes on the user record with a validation rule? That's the question. I'm unable to pull up the
if-
fields for the formula. Any other ideas? Am I missing something? And she goes on.
If
There's a whole line. She can't answer yes or no.
I'm gonna stop you right here and just say the validation rule is if user ID equals $user ID.
Let's plug that one into the chatty chat because that's a huge win for her. But she said, I was like, well, why are they able to edit the user records? But she said users are able to edit their personal settings, and she is trying to restrict. I'm trying to restrict that was we do not want them to edit. I'm trying to restrict that was we do not want them to edit most of those fields, name, email, etc. When looking at those, they can go to advanced user details and then edit much more there. That needs to be changed. And that was when I encouraged her to submit these to MVP office hours. And she said, unfortunately, she has a standing meeting. Please bring it up. And I was like, sure, we'll bring it up, but there will be a lot of questions. We did have one retort that said something about how about custom error element in a record triggered flow. And that all really depends on the resources available to Melissa.
That sounds awfully complicated for what she sounds like she's trying to do. And not that I'm the right Melissa, but Melissa and I, hashtag Melissa Force. To me, I think I understand what she's asking, and it sounds like it's more of a permission set than it is a validation rule.
Oh,
We
so has anybody ever looked at the user object in Data Loader or Workbench? There's
Yeah.
somewhere in the ballpark of like 400 some odd fields, maybe 800 now, I don't know. But all of those user settings, everything obviously on the user detail record,
Right.
all of it is a user field.
Right.
And if you're trying to prevent a user from updating their own whatever,
Most of their own whatever, right?
So I
Or-
would say, if
I-
if I may, because Melissa isn't here, and not seeing, I don't do the Twitter thing. I'm thinking she's talking about the lowest common denominator when you go and you hit your little astro and then you go to your profile, and then on the left side you're able to see user details and you're able to update some general information about your name or your display name, your nickname or alias, and then your email address. And then in addition to that, you can go to advanced user details, but if you don't have user management system setting, you can't make edits on your own user record. So is she talking about users that do have this administrative access, or is it simply the more kind of, hey, I want to change my email address, et cetera, et cetera? Because if that's the situation, it may not be validation rule, it might have to be a trigger.
So we have a validation rule that doesn't let them change their first name, last name, email, alias, username, community nickname, title, or company name.
Okay.
Only because that's the only things that I cared about at the time. Because we have users who will click on a name and then say, oh no, this should be assigned to Joy, and they'll change the name in the user record rather than changing the assignment. So I locked that down a long time ago, and yeah, it doesn't, you don't even need $ user ID. It's like, if this is changed, it is changed. It's changed, changed, stop.
How do you
So,
protect it from being changed by the system though? If you can't block all change, can you?
well, our system doesn't change. And so we basically have a business, we have a custom field called business unit. And if the business unit is either the Salesforce COE, well, basically that's it. The Salesforce COE, if you're not part of the Salesforce COE, meaning our team, and you're trying to change any of this, you can't. You have to come to us with a case. So all of our system stuff, like when we create a user, our users are created by our integration users, which are part of the Salesforce COE. So, I mean, this works swimmingly because I get cases all the time from people going, how come I can't change my email address?
Why
Yeah,
would
it's
they?
gotta
I
be
guess, I guess
corporate.
we have some human problems in here.
We absolutely, people and process.
Right. Yeah.
It's always people.
It feels like a behavior and training thing.
It absolutely is, but
yeah.
with, I have 12,000 users. If I can't train them all, I have to stop them, because otherwise we were having all kinds of problems. Like literally they would they would click on an owner's name and change the name of the user rather than changing.
Which is like Steve Moe level rage right there. Like, I guess what, so that's its own use case. That obviously, like, simple training is you can't do that. But like, why not the email? Why not the nickname? Why not the alias? Why not like, what are the reasons for not allowing those when, unless they're getting hard coded in somewhere, which I hope to God not, but like, it feels like there's a lot of whys and hows and how nots. Oh, hey, look who's entering the waiting room.
No.
Melissa has joined the conversation.
She got my message.
good.
I messaged
But if I
her.
may
Yay.
respond to that specifically, the one of the scenarios that I see why people lock those things down is at Cisco, the user alias is their Cisco ID, and that's the foreign key to the HRMS system, in which we sync information, titles, manager, departments, etc. So they definitely have a trigger that blocks people from updating any of those things so that you don't break said system integration. However, other things that are not bound by that integration pattern maybe become available, but only those that have administrative access to make those kind of like adding permission sets and things of that nature.
And I hear that. I would argue that's maybe overuse of a standard field in Salesforce. Like, that's, alias was made by Salesforce as a standard field to do certain things. And so is it being overtaxed now when it's being locked in as an integration field to something that manages a whole other bucket of stuff in something as huge as Cisco? But
yeah, before me, and I'm no longer there. So
right.
Oh, Joy, I also laugh a lot of you. So I'm with you, giggly girls.
That's all the time. All the time. Where did we get Melissa? You said Melissa joined the call? Is she here?
I let her in.
Melissa Linenberger, come off mute.
I'm here. I saw that you messaged me, but I didn't actually see the message.
That's okay. We're talking about your stuff.
Mhm.
And I think you might have to rewind the recording and listen to it a little bit, but there are some questions, Melissa, like, why do they have access to the fields you don't want them to change?
Is there a way for them not to have access?
Well, so what fields is it specifically, like, and why do they have access? Why shouldn't they have access? Like, there's I feel like there's some, let's take some steps back in the history here to figure out how we got here.
So when you go into your personal settings, you have access to your name, your email, your alias, like you were talking about, stuff like that. We don't want them changing their names, their emails, their alias, any of that.
Why do they feel like they need to, though?
I don't know.
Why do you feel like they shouldn't?
Because, well, especially their email. We don't want them touching any of that. They are tied to other things, and we don't want people changing their names without manager permission, I guess. the only thing we really want them to have access to is the time zone. And then the, yeah, when you go into advanced user details and edit that, you can also edit a lot of that. Right, excuse me, right now, this afternoon in about an hour and a half, I'm going to be doing a demo to show that I've got all of this blocked with a validation rule. However, none of those check marks can be blocked with the validation rule, or at least I'm not finding a way.
What is your validation rule?
What is my validation rule? I can log in. I just got back from another meeting, so give me a minute here.
I mean, I
Nothing
guess
like
I guess
putting you
that
up
tells
against
me,
everything,
it tells me
right?
what it's not.
And
It tells me-
Melissa,
tells me what
why
it's
do you
not.
want to use a validation rule, Melissa, instead of like permission sets?
I would be fine with permission sets if I could get that one to work, but I haven't been able to.
I guess I would argue is what I had put up here, and I feel like I got shot down with it, is your validation rule could be $user ID equals user ID.
I like that idea. I didn't shoot you down. I just wanted to hear everything else.
There were some others who did.
Oh, I didn't
But
hear
that was
that.
the debate Joy was telling me about.
Yeah, Andrew.
You
Oh,
two?
sorry.
No, there are more people involved than Joy.
Because all of these fields as well, like, no, you can't necessarily leverage them easily. Actually, you can. These are all fields on the user object. They're just not named intuitively because I think Salesforce either didn't want you to, or they had a product owner who didn't think, hey, let's make it intuitive or whatever. But the user object's
Or
like
it changed over time.
Or it changed over time. But the user object's like 200-300 fields wide, all of which these are. If you did an export through data loader of the user object, it is like 90-something% checkbox fields, true,
Yeah.
false.
Which
A lot of which these are. And so theoretically, if you're just trying to keep a user from updating their own user detail, if running user is the user, that should block it.
Can you do, Dale, how do you do except for time zone then?
We could write
It's,
do an if
it's
statement of
changed.
like, if time zone changed, allow that, and then have a
Mhm.
different one that's for the rest, maybe? No, they'd fight
Why
against
would
each
they
other.
need to change their time zone? And answer me why they would need to change their time zone, because theoretically,
You travel?
Yeah, travel.
Well, but-
they're in call centers.
Got set up wrong.
I'm gonna
well,
ask
yeah,
again,
like
like, can we
that
just do
feels
this
like
by
an admin
saying,
issue, not theirs to solve. Like I feel like I hear you, they need to be able to change it, but does, like, salespeople, they definitely don't know how to change their time zone if they're traveling across time zones. It just is what it is. Like, you
I would be fine
live
if they
with that you're
couldn't
3
change it.
hours off for a couple of days. If it was the admin set them up wrong, that should be the admin fixing it, not the user. And I would also argue, does the user even know how to change their time zone? Like, to go those couple of clicks in to see, oh, hey, I'm in the wrong time zone. I guess is the simplest answer potentially the best option, which is, if you don't want them to update any of their preferences, why not just say, I can't update my own user record?
I'm gonna ask again, why wouldn't we just shut down write access to all the fields on user for that profile, eventually permission set, and then grant it back access to the system admin? Now you could say write access to time zone, but not the other fields at the profile level, the permissions level. Doesn't that work?
Yeah, and
Am I
then that way you don't make it so that nothing could change that, right?
How many people, so this
would
is the
love to
side
be
of the
able to
debate
post
that I haven't listened to yet, but profiles and permission sets, how many people are you having to manage that across? Profiles, potentially, how many are you having to manage that across? If it could be done in one fell swoop, you're managing one thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
We have about 4,000 users.
Okay.
So
So
the default
And so
profile
even if
would
you
have
put
no
in-
write access.
Can I share my
I'd
screen
have to
really
look at the
quick,
default.
friends?
And I do have I have the validation rule, but it's too long to put in the chat.
If anyone wants to upvote, they can upvote the idea to allow you to set field level security on the user object.
Yeah.
I would love
It's
that.
only been out there since 2007, so don't get your hopes up.
So,
Yeah.
If I could share my screen, and this is the question that I was asking earlier in the chat, was, oh lordy. Okay, 1 second.
Wonder how.
Okay, I have to rejoin. I'm sorry. Freaking Mac doesn't have access to share my screen. I'll be back.
I'm gonna do my validation rule in pieces and see if this will figure out how much that I can put in there.
I love this. I love this call.
My mouse does not want to work.
I
What was that?
just saw your validation rule.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And that's not even
Ew.
it's
Melissa.
easy.
But ew.
Yeah, careful with the hard-coded IDs in there.
Oh, crap.
Yeah. Custom settings.
Yeah, I know that
Please.
can be an issue, and I can go back and change that. I just haven't yet.
That's the CEO, the CIO, and the CTO.
Okay.
So-
I'm kidding. I have no idea. I'm making things up.
The BA turned SA in me wants to first ask the question, why users do you feel the need to change any of your user information? Because the more I think about it, I'm going to walk back validation rule of user ID equals $user ID, because God only knows how many things happen when you do something in Salesforce as it pertains to the user object. I mean, I would argue user is the most powerful object with account as a close second of anything that you try to do.
So I wanted to show this as a regular user. So Melissa L, because there's another Melissa, these are things you want to restrict. Whereas on the right side, you can clearly see they can't change their roles or update the feature licenses.
Actually,
There are
roll is
some
allowed.
accessibility items that you definitely want them to be able to change if they have some accessibility or challenges visually to enhance, and some other things.
Our users actually could change role, market user.
Why? Yeah, I go back to why, because that means they can not only change their own, they can change others.
Yeah.
I can make myself de facto system administrator then, and I can have keys to the kingdom.
No,
No, you
you
wouldn't have the
no,
profile.
not profiles. You can't change other people's profiles.
Yeah, it was just role. So they can see everyone's stuff with role.
Admin's not a
They
role.
have the
Admin's a
permissions.
profile.
No,
Yeah.
I get that, but what I'm saying is if you're able to make those type of changes, wouldn't you also have the ability to change someone's profile?
No.
No. Only like, what's the setting? Besides being a system admin, I think there's a
delegated,
very
right?
super special permission that allows you to change the profile of other users. It is a very explicit and deliberate grant. It's not a free for all.
Yeah, delegated admin is the only way you can crack past that admin level.
Understood. And that's what I was under the impression, because see, I can't change this role. I can't
No.
change my role.
Mhm.
I could, when I went in as someone else, I could change the role. So it's included in my validation role.
Understood. What I'm saying is I would question what system permissions is set up for that user. And there may be something that needs to be removed unless there's a different requirement to grant them that.
Not that I know of, because it was our inbound users, which is our largest group. Of the 4,000, it's probably like 3,500 users.
'Cause-
So they have the least permissions. I don't know how they would have the permissions to change that.
Right, because like that's what I'm showing right now is I'm
Yeah.
a vanilla user with no special anything. This is just a standard little play box from Trailhead, and I do not have the ability to do that.
Yeah, I'd have to look again, but I don't know what they have that would allow that.
Okay. Well, do let us know. I'm very excited this is my first time, so I'm overly excited. I'm sorry, guys.
Is
That's
okay.
So I think
I
maybe
think that way too.
just for an opportunity to make sure we get to the other two questions, I do want to kind of circle the wagons just for a second, if that's an okay thing to say. So it sounds like if we were going to make like a button list of things, there is a question about what permissions the users have at like a profile or permission level, just to ensure that we're not trying to fix a problem that can't be fixed at beyond that level. There is thought about using a validation rule to ensure that you can or can't, but it can be a little bit lengthy. What was the other one? There was like 3 kind of recommendations here, right? Or is it just those 2?
I know one of the recommendations that, or twice, it was recommended on Twitter that I use a flow.
Ugh.
One was a record.
Record trigger flow?
Yeah, one was a record triggered and the other was a before save. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would offer that flows only make sure that it stays the way it was. It doesn't tell the user why it didn't save. That's not a great experience. I would say that's your third option.
Mhm.
Validation gives the user real-time response to say you aren't allowed to change that. It still doesn't really help them. You're going to get a ticket. And then the third one is if they can't edit it at all, you're still going to get a ticket, but now you're not handling a commit. You're dealing with. So I think that's all the things we've said. Did I miss anything?
I mean, I would go back and ask the users, why do you feel the need to change? Because that may also drive your solution.
Fair. Yep.
You know, this is coming from my product owner that they want to change. I don't get to ask those questions a lot, which is annoying. But yeah, I can go back and ask more.
If I could just challenge that, it's likely that it's okay to ask the question depending on how you frame it, right? So
Yeah.
if you put it on them to say something like, in order for me to solve this the right way, I need to know more about why that's important. Then it doesn't seem like you're pushing back as much as like you're tricking them into telling you why without saying why.
Fire, I love your way with words.
Yeah, right. It's all bullshit and smoke and mirrors. Yeah. So
But it goes with tech should never drive the strategy. Strategy
Right.
should always drive the tech. And I mean, user access isn't a strategy, but it's a microcosm of how things get done. So it falls in the strategy category this time.
I think this, I apologize for cutting this off. I think there's a lot of people with a lot of opinions. I just want to make sure that you have something to go with before we're on our time, and we have 2 other questions.
Well, when I do get to come here and ask questions, I make sure they're good, apparently. They're
Awesome.
always debated.
This was a good one.
Thank you,
The
guys.
last thing, and just gonna throw this out there, don't post on Twitter anymore. Put it in success, because we can have better conversations in success.
I
Or do
didn't
both.
put it on Twitter. Joy just saw my question.
You can
Oh,
you
okay,
can do you can do both. You can do both, but we
okay.
can help you better in the success community.
Yeah.
I had to throw out a life ring for you, Melissa. Come
Yeah,
on.
there you go.
I'm not gonna leave you floundering.
Thank you, Melissa. So we're gonna jump to other Melissa. You had something you wanted to try to throw out there?
Yeah, so this is really random and really kind of far out there. So if this is not the appropriate place, just point me to someone who's our Slack expert, which is certainly not me. I had this thought. We have a channel in our team Slack where everybody posts the results from their New York Times Wordle puzzle, right? And so it's great on a daily basis. But what I would like to see, and I think it's a translatable concept, otherwise I wouldn't bring it up. But what I'd like to see is who has like the best percentage of wins. I'd like to create almost like a leaderboard, but I don't know if that's something that can actually, if the data's got to be saved in Salesforce and then translated and moved back to Slack, or I just couldn't even begin to wrap my head around how to start on something like that.
I mean, data model wise, it feels like just a custom object with the owner being the user, and details from that channel, like a post equals a record on that custom object. If you know that the Slack user is the Salesforce user, and then are you wanting to report it in Slack or are you wanting to report it in Salesforce?
Yeah, I want to report in Slack, and I'd really rather not have to create an object in Salesforce at all.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
How independent is Slack and the processes that you can, the flows and the things that you can do in Slack? How independent is it of Salesforce? Because, why would we store our Wordles in Salesforce on a daily basis, or anything else is that transient that changes like every single day?
Why would the results change every day? When I thought
Well, they would, but the aggregated results would not, right? I mean, but it would. So I mean, because your your Wordle score each day is different, or probably different. But
Right. And so that's why each transaction would be its own record. I would just suggest Salesforce just for the reporting engine, whereas Slack is still coming along with everything that you can do with its app marketplace. Maybe there's something robust out there. I mean, there's a ton of apps on Slack that might actually handle what you're doing.
Katie, didn't you just work on some Slack integration? Katie, you're muted.
Not yet, getting there. I just got
Okay.
the requirements, but I cannot be helpful in this
Yet.
conversation.
Yet.
I'll see myself out.
Yet. Yet.
So what
checking.
I'm hearing is that pretty much anything from a reporting standpoint, a feedback standpoint, an aggregating standpoint, roll-ups, whatever, Slack is not able to handle any of that. Basically, it's like save it all to Salesforce, perform all the transactions there, and report it back out to Slack.
Yeah, I mean, Slack is not an operational database, so I mean, using it for analytics on data that has nothing to do with Slack specifically is going to be a challenge. So I think that's probably the right answer.
Cool. Okay. That helps. Thank you.
Did we have any other questions, Squire?
Tony posted a gigantic thing in Success, and I was hoping we'd just solve it after the meeting and not talk about it, but I made sure there was time to speak to it.
That's a comment. If it can be solved after the meeting, I'm good with that. I don't have to.
I think that you put a lot of time and effort into that post. I'd love to hear where your head's at. I mean, maybe we can't get to it today, but give us the rundown.
So the rundown is that, real quick, we have an external functionality that is AI, not Einstein, that reads email to case emails. We send it to them. They read it. They determine whether or not they can put together a travel offer. If they can put together a travel offer, they have APIs that go out to all of our various booking areas. They put together a travel offer. They build it in an email. They send it over, and our team, our code team, takes all of that information and creates a draft email out of it. Works great, works swimmingly. It's great, awesome. However, the draft email that is inserted into the case is inserted using the integration user, and draft emails in Lightning, not in Classic, but in Lightning, are private. So although I can allow everybody to see the draft email in the email message component on the case, they can't interact with it, they can't send it, they can't do anything because they are not the creator of the draft email. I did reach out to, first of all, I looked on Trailblazer and somebody said, create an approval process. So I tried that, but you can't have an approval process with a queue as an assigned approval. It has to be named individuals, and we have 8,000 travel counselors that could be actioning these emails. I don't know which one is ever going to do it. So it has to kind of be actionable by everybody. So then I went to Salesforce and I said, this is what I need. And they said, have them switch to Classic. And I said, I can't do that. I can't train that. So they said, sorry, nothing we can do. So I guess I'm coming to you guys to see, has anybody solved for that any sneakily hackish, wonderful way, or am I really kind of out of luck?
Been a while since I played with approvals, but isn't role potentially leverageable? All users in a role?
No,
as an
it's
approver?
user or related user or community user is all I had for email messages.
Oh, for email. Okay, gotcha.
Because yeah, every other approval process I have, I can do queues. So I was like, oh, I can fix this. Yeah, no, queue was not an option.
Is it not an option because there isn't a queue built on the actual object you're referencing?
No, I thought of that and I created a
Okay.
queue and it still wasn't an option because that was my
Alright,
first thought.
well-
I'm like, hey, there's no queue in here. I could do that. Yeah, no.
Is there any way when you create that draft, instead of it being the integration user is the owner, is there any way you can pull the owner of the case and assign it to them?
What they were actually trying to do is pull the owner pull the person that actually asked for the offer, because it isn't all completely automated yet. The problem is we can't guarantee that that's going to be the person that works it, because our travel counselors don't work cases start to finish. Right? They work them as they come in, and if they're waiting on something, they'll throw it back in the queue for the next person to work. So that's the problem, is we never know who's going to actually have to action that email.
So they might draft it, but someone else could be sent.
Well, they're not drafting it, the automation's drafting it. So they could say, they could go into the case and look at it, the automation's not there. So then they throw it back in the queue. The next person comes in, an hour later and goes, do we have a draft email yet?
Is it possible to create some other automation that could fire from a button that says, hey, and update the owner of that draft?
It's the creator, so we haven't been able to change it because it's the system created by field that is owning it. It's not really an owner field. So
Even
I have, if there's a
can't
way,
even-
tell me, because I haven't found a way to change that field because it's system.
Which you can't even update if
Yeah.
you've got that audit field enabled. The audit permission, for being able to update. Being able to
Well, you
change.
can do it on an insert if you have the,
Oh, yeah.
audit system fields, but not on an update.
There'd be a clone of it? Could it be cloned?
The email message?
The draft, could it suddenly be cloned to belong to a particular user?
I can try that. I can see if I can put a clone button on the email message. Yeah, let me see if I can do that. That's a good idea.
Linda, I miss your good ideas in my everyday.
I just wish they always worked. Because ideas I've come up with lately just haven't worked.
For anyone's wondering, Linda and I used to work together, and it was always Linda's like, whew, creativity makes me smile.
Yeah, clone's not available on the email message. I
Nuts.
just looked.
But what about just cloning it literally by taking the fields and putting them into a new record and then deleting the old one?
Oh yeah, that we could do, but the whole idea is that all the travel counselor has to do is look at it and hit send. Right? So yes, I mean, I also thought of the idea of, instead of creating an email message out of what is passed over from the AI, as we put hidden fields on the case, and then put those merge fields into a template and let the travel counselor create an email message with those merge fields. But that is them creating the message. And the business is absolutely like, nope, too many clicks, too many clicks.
Could you make send not actually be send? Like
And instead
send
it's a program that clones and sends.
Yeah,
that
there you go.
creates, deletes, and then sends?
This is not the action you were looking for.
So how would that work? So tell me what you're thinking, Andrew.
So you're literally almost having to create a program behind it that says, hey, go grab these fields and stuff for this email message. Create a new email message where the owner is the person who just clicked that button to basically recreate that draft, and then allow it for them to send it.
The user
Yeah,
would
but
see one click, you'd have a bunch of moving parts underneath the covers, right?
Right.
Can't you create a custom lightning action and pre-populate a lot of that stuff? Including the sender?
Right, you can use an action to create a new send, but
Correct.
could you get the record delete out of that too?
Oh, what are we, I see, and that's, unfortunately, I was distracted
It's
with
already
the circle,
created
sorry.
a draft. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the draft would have to be deleted. Otherwise, nobody could do anything with it.
Hmm.
You don't want storage issues by having extra records there too.
Idea exchange?
There is.
Wow, do
Here's
you
what's
have,
interesting about that.
do you get kickbacks from these product owners from Salesforce, by the way?
Interestingly
yeah.
They love
enough,
us.
there is
We
an
tag 'em all.
idea. There is an
Mhm.
idea to make to make public drafts instead of private drafts in Lightning, but they merged that into a able to save drafts in Lightning. I'm like, we can already do that. That's not the problem. So I did upvote that, but I'm like, this is kind of the wrong thing I'm upvoting, but I added a comment. I mean, what I really need out of all of this is I need them to give me the ability to share email messages that are drafts and not make a draft unless I state it. Because like there's an is private draft field. We've even set that to false and it still comes across as a draft. It's private. But I will try the, creation cloning thing, see if we can get it to work without the travel counselor actually doing anything.
What happens if you set the default from a group email address? Because then wouldn't that de facto make it like at least aligned from a group as opposed to a specific user?
I don't know that the creator of a record can be anything but a user.
No, I meant the draft email.
The draft email works fine. I mean, we can get the draft email. The problem is we can't grab it. We can see it, but we can't do anything with it.
Man, I want to see this.
Linda.
Does the ability, wait, just here's another thought. Does the ability of someone to send that also depend on the hierarchy?
No, nope. It's literally the user.
It literally has to be that user. It can't be any other user. Like even if you had
Yep.
them or below someone in the hierarchy.
Yeah, we tried that too. We tried to put the integration user at the bottom. Nope.
I
Could
love
you
watching
make a-
everyone's wheels turning in their face. You guys are great.
The send button, is that like the standard send button, like email composer send button that they're clicking?
The problem is they don't even see the send button. So what happens is the draft comes in, the draft is in the email message component. So you can see it. If you click on it, you can see it as an email message, right? You can't, there's no send there.
And they
Because
can
it's not
open, so it
editable.
opens a record page. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, read
Could
only
you
record
make a
page.
custom act? Can you add a button to that page that they're looking at?
Well,
at
the
all?
send comes out of the email action, right? So when you have a draft email, you go to the email action wherever you put that on your Lightning record page. Mine happens to be in a tab. And when you click on the compose button or the write an email line, the draft appears. And from that draft appearing, you can then action the draft or send the draft or whatever. If you are not the creator of the draft, when you hit write an email, you don't see anything. You see a blank screen.
Are they always visiting the case or like the record, whatever it is, the record page that they're going to send the email that's related to before they go to actually send it?
Yes. Yeah, because it's
Could you
against the
have like
case.
could you have like a screen flow that just runs on that, like whatever the record is when they go to it, that finds the email, clones it, like creates a new one and deletes it, like something like that before they actually even go to send it. So like, you know what I'm saying? Kind of that happens just in the background. They wouldn't realize it.
Yeah, go find the find the latest email that has been created. That's a
For the
draft.
case that they're viewing.
Right. Is private draft equals true? Because there can only be one draft on a case. So I find the email with private draft equals true. Grab the to, grab the from, grab the subject, grab the body, create a new email message as that user,
Delete the old one.
delete
And
the old
then-
one, and then save it. Okay, that's a good idea. It's a lot,
And
but yeah.
if you put that in a screen flow that had like no UI, that it was at like the top of the page, like the uppermost top, it'll load right away. And if you put like the activity timeline behind a tab, that should run before they click the activity timeline, which won't load until it actually is viewed, hypothetically. Like you'd have to
Yeah.
test it, but like it should, because they don't load stuff that's hidden in tabs until like they go to actually
Yeah.
navigate to it.
Well, the email, so this is a case, so the emails are not in the activity timeline because it's emails from case. So, but yeah, I'm going to try that. That's a great idea. Thank you. We'll
Look
see
at
if
that, we solved
works.
it with 2 minutes to go.
Sweet.
And Taco said hi, but you guys could hardly hear him.
All right, it looks like unfortunately all three of your favorite hosts have hard stops. So we're gonna actually cut the meeting a minute and a half short so that we can get to our meetings.
Yeah.
It's not you, it's us.
Thank you, everybody. You don't have to go home, but you
Have
can't
a
stay
great
here. Yeah.
weekend. Happy
Bye.
Friday.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks.